Hey everybody, in keeping with the theme of big heavily armoured shit bricks nobody knows how to pen, here's a match by Uragoon MK, I suppose I should say, in his T95 gun motor carriage, the Tier 9 turretless US tank destroyer. Point worth noting before we actually start the match is that MK hasn't actually unlocked the big gun yet, the 155. He's still running the 120mm gun as seen on the T28.
Let's get this show on the road.
So while it has decent pen, it obviously does much less damage than the big gun, and at least it fires faster. Handles a little better too, as far as I'm aware. Now, I may have made a terrible mistake. I just went and got myself a cup of tea, and I think by the time this replay is actually done, it may well have gone cold. Normally I would just time accelerate through this at 2 or 4 times if I was watching it myself, but for those of you who haven't actually played the T95, as I haven't actually, I'm just going to leave this in real time so you can get a good grip of just how ponderously slow this thing is. One of the saddest things in the world is trying to watch a T95 attempting to carry a game after his teammates have all died around him. In fact, probably the only thing sadder is being the T95 who has to try and clean up after his teammates. And you'll see why. It's just so slow. This is as fast as it will go. He's going downhill right now. This is as fast as this thing will ever go unless you have a train of 3 or 4 tanks pushing it. And even then you won't get it up to any kind of reasonable speed. So let's take a while to actually look at the T95. Now this is one of the tanks that Wargaming have given an HD model recently. It's got some nice details on it. You can see the different shell marks. As with most of the HD models, Wargaming have modelled on wear and tear from use and some battle damage. Oops, there's a T71. We'll resume our appreciation of the visual model in a minute. Nice little handbrake turn from the 71 there. He's able to get away. Now, it's not a good idea to chase him, so MK simply pulls a 3-point turn, or at least the T95's equivalent of a 3-point turn, and stays in his lane. The T71 is now someone else's problem. Going back to our little T95 admiration view, you can see there's actually a shell stuck partway through the armor, which is a good piece of flavor for this tank and a good indicator of actually what it's good at: bouncing shots and absorbing damage. Again, this is as fast as it goes. I'm sorry if this is not particularly exciting to watch, but it's worth sticking around for the end of the match. Now, one of the worst things that can possibly happen to you as a T95 player is to go down a flank that the enemy don't bother pushing, because you'll basically be useless all game. You lack the mobility to reposition at all. Once you've moved to a flank, you've committed. There's no way you're likely to get back before the end of the match, at least without dying. In fact, it's pretty much a perfect setup for MK, because while there's no big open fields from to shoot across, say Malinovka or Prokhorovka, there's no arty, so he doesn't have to worry about that. There's also very few medium tanks on the enemy team, so he has that going for him. However, he's still a T95, and he's still going to take forever to get to the actual scene of the fighting, and all the while his team is melting around him. One thing you can see here is he has to be very careful about how he rounds corners. The reason for this is that a tracked T95 is a dead T95, but if you can at least get your tracks to absorb a shell instead of something that the enemy tank can actually pen, you do at least buy yourself a little bit of time. So you have to really plan your turns before you take them. If you pop too far around a corner, you will get tracked and you will get taken apart. Similarly, if you take the corner too wide, you'll give off side armor, and while the front sides of the T95 are quite well armored, the rear sides are mostly pennable. Now, MK actually turns his back on the 112 here. This is very dangerous in a T95, but the Centurion is a much more important threat at the moment. He's also reduced to a handful of one-shottable teammates in a little enclave in a relatively useless corner of the map. But since the enemy will try and push this position and most likely will try and get to cap through this position, it's not a bad spot for a last stand. The AT-15 foolishly thinks he can charge a T-95 and get away with it, or rather charge the Tiger next to the T-95. The 1390 throws his tank away pointlessly. Curious considering he is statistically the best player on the team. I don't know how he thought he would get away with driving in front of an AT-7. That thing fires very quickly. And now, oh dear. This is not a good situation to be in. Now, normally this would be the end for a T-95. He focuses the targets he can at least hit, and hopes the Centurion will go away. In fact, the AT-15 pulls through, and makes the Centurion go away from across the river. And that small contribution from the AT-15 saves our hero. Now, while in most turretless TDs you can actually scrape tanks off against walls or rocks or such, the T-95 is so painfully slow and immobile, basically, that people can see it coming and they'll just dance around you. There's really no way to get rid of a medium if you're in a T-95, unless it's stupid enough to drive in front of your gun, or drive behind you when you're parked next to a cliff edge. Now, this Su-152 has the 152mm gun, and he's firing HE. And because he's firing HE, MK knows he's fairly safe. It's almost impossible for the 152's HE to actually pen him, certainly from the front or side, and so all he has to do is worry about the tanks that are actually likely to damage him, and wait for this guy to drive in front of his gun, which he's doing right now. That deals with that problem. Don't shoot HE, especially not at a T-95. Now, although he's tracked here, the enemy Tiger II isn't going to push across the river just yet. It's actually dealing with the AT-15, or getting dealt with by the AT-15 more accurately. And the AT-7 doesn't want to push because he too is a slow turretless tank destroyer. MK gets a hit into the side of the Tiger, a good solid hit there, and goes for the finishing blow, and low rolls. That was 20 damage short of the average roll for his gun, and the Tiger gets away with 15 hit points because of it. MK is now in a pretty dangerous situation. The Tigers managed to clean up the AT-15, there's no longer anything stopping him from flanking around, and the AT-7 also has the ability to move and flank around through the plaza to MK's rear. Driving into the street to his front left to chase after the AT-7 will show side to the Tiger if it's still in the same general area as it was before, while driving after the Tiger, heading around the right and hairpinning back on the road there to cross the bridge, will expose rear armor to the AT-15 if it happens to pop out around the corner. So MK does the best possible thing in this situation, finds a corner and tucks himself firmly into it. From this area he can see both likely approaches of the enemy tanks, and that gives him a much better chance of dealing with them if they come through. He's still not really invulnerable. If they come flying around the corner and put one into his tracks, he's as good as done. He also can't really angle perfectly because the two streets are just too far apart. He can only hope for the best. But in this case, he happens to be pointing the right way at the right time and manages to take out the AT-7. With that done, he obviously is spotted. The Tiger knows where he is and has a fair idea where he's facing, and so after a quick hesitation, he decides to push around the corner. And you can actually see he pushes the corner just enough to get spotted if the tiger were there, and pulls back. This is to try and bait the tiger's shot. A lot of puppies will snapshot at a tank as it noses around a corner, and if it happens to bounce or miss, that's a great chance to roll out and put a shot into its face. If it hits and happens to track him, then, well, he knows not to push around the corner, at least until it's distracted. The AT-15 wreck is in a bad spot there. It's preventing him from easily turning the corner, so he tries to pivot around its wreck instead. This is a very dangerous moment for the T-95. If he gets caught from behind or the side, the tiger will almost certainly finish him off. He's well within its one-shot range at this point. Pushes around the corner just to check it's not coming down that street, and then turns back the other way to go and see if the tiger is heading for the friendly cap. Now, if the tiger was to roll out behind him, there would be nothing he could do. He would be pretty much certainly dead at this point. Thankfully, the tiger is not thinking ahead, and so the chance is wasted. Once again, the T-95 reaches its incredible, blistering top speed, 13 kilometers an hour, and he's able to get in the finishing shot as the tiger foolishly drives broadside into cap. How predictable. So that's a pretty impressive match there in the T-95, Top Gun, and over 5k damage, as well as carrying the rest of his team in a situation that really you wouldn't expect a T-95 to come out of alive. Good demonstration of this tank's slowness, really, and its capabilities, but mostly its slowness. This is why I don't have a T-95, this is why I don't really plan on getting a T-95, at least not in the near future. It's just so slow. But there are people who enjoy it, and it is quite strong when it's played well. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you don't feel that that was hours of your life wasted, and surprisingly my tea has not actually gone cold yet. But as ever, I wish you the best of luck in the field, and I'll see you on the next one.